CNBC TV 18.
To the CNBC conversation. I'm Steve Sedgwick. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll speak to Shashi Shankar, the chairman and managing director of ONGC, India's largest oil and gas producer. When you think of oil or gas companies, the acronym ONGC may not spring to mind. But today, it's India's largest vertically integrated energy business. ONGC was born on 14th August 1956, marking the day India's quest for energy independence began. The hunt for oil was long and tedious, but eventually the geologists hit black gold. The first find was in Lunej in Gujarat state. Then, in the early 60s, a much larger field was discovered in Ankleshwar, part of what is now known as the Cambay Basin, but it barely made a dent in India's dependence on imported oil. The hunt for more headed offshore, and in the early 1970s, ONGC discovered the giant Bombay High field off India's west coast. Over the years, the company developed major refining capacity, a petrochemical division, and it's making major inroads into renewables, with solar and wind increasingly part of ONGC's energy mix. But this is still very much an oil business. The company operates 6 of the 7 main oil-producing basins across the country, and the exploration and production division domestically produces close to 1 million barrels of oil per day. But that's still not enough for India's insatiable need for oil and gas to support the country's explosive economic growth. So, ONGC continues to look overseas and now has a presence in 20 countries, including a 10% stake in Abu Dhabi's Lower Zakum field. But that doesn't answer India's desire for greater energy independence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has set a target to reduce oil imports by 10% by 2022. A big challenge considering India is now the world's 3rd largest consumer of energy, with that demand only increasing. So how will India's largest state-controlled energy business face the dilemma of growing its oil and gas business to support the economy, with the demands of meeting climate goals and reducing imports? And what does the future look like for ONGC? Shashi, really nice to meet you. I intend to learn a lot about your company in this conversation and a lot about the energy industry in India as well. Tell me about where this company is going, because we stand here today with India looking to diversify energy sources as well, to live in a post-COP21 world as well. So where are the priorities for your company in building up the energy picture for India?
See, primarily we are national oil companies, so while we continue to focus on our exploration and production activity, at the same time we are looking at different projects. In fact, in a small way we are present in the renewable sector also. We have put up about 150 megawatt of wind power and a small capacity of solar as well. We have set up one gas-based power plant, that is 726 megawatt power plant in the eastern part of the country. Now going forward, our focus, as you might be knowing, that India is we are going to slowly move towards the gas-based economy.
Okay.
Today our energy basket is about 7%, and our target by 2030 we would like to go to 15%. And on that front, we have quite a few assets which is under development. And if you talk about my company, from the present level what we are producing, it's going to almost get doubled. Today we produce about 24 billion cubic meter of gas per annum. From this it's going to be 42 billion cubic meter by 2020. It's the next 4 years.
So in terms of the evolution of your company as well, and in like the whole industry as well, the oil and gas industry, and you've already explained that you are full stream as well, but the oil and gas industry is very keen to call itself the energy industry now, the energy company as well. You're fully paid up member of that club. You want to talk about yourselves as energy rather than just oil and gas?
I think so. In fact, there have been many projections by different agencies. We talk about BP Energy Statistics, IHS Market, IA, and all the projections, at least going in the up to 2040, the oil and gas is going to play a dominant role. Maybe the demand growth is slightly going to reduce, but then I strongly feel that oil and gas is going to play a very critical role as for the world energy basket.
That's very interesting. So whilst we have this movement about the transition in energy as well, we have people talking about the dominant role in India and beyond going forward about renewables. You're a very practical man. This is still about oil and gas.
No, I'll tell you. In fact, what is being projected, like if you talk about renewable in terms of percentage, today, be it India or even in the world energy basket, the percentage is small. So the growth, when you talk about, people talk about the growth taking place in excess of 15%. But in absolute number, if you see, there is a long way to go. I mean, when it reaches a level where that could be, in terms of percentage of the energy basket, it will have a substantial presence. But yes, that's the way. Futuristic, and for that matter, all the E&P companies, they are looking at this option very carefully. So is the case with ONGC.
Yeah, I mean, renewables, cleaner energy, it's the future, but the here and now and the short to medium term about investment in oil and gas. Do you have concerns that there is a lack of appetite amongst financiers, people who can underwrite bond issues, equity? There is a lack of appetite for oil and gas assets, which actually is just not practical in the current world.
No, this is one topic which I discussed in the ministerial session. So yes, internationally, if you talk about, yes, there had been concern when the oil prices had come down, people were trying to withdraw from the sector. So not enough investment had taken place. But India, if you talk about, and we had taken altogether a contrarian view on this, and when the oil prices were low, we kept investing at the same level, or our activity level had gone up.
Hang on, you kept investing when the prices went low?
Yeah, that's right.
That's quite rare. So how did you do that? Because there must be a lot of pressure to cut back on that investment.
This is something like a stock market. When the stock prices come down, people try to withdraw themselves, and when the stock prices tries to go up. So we do realize that there is a volatility in this segment, and so this price is not going to stay at this level where it is today. And if you're going to make any investment, typically any NP project for that matter, it takes 5, 6, 7 years to come on stream. So we do realize that, and this had been our strategy, not today, otherwise also, irrespective of the crude oil price movement.
And that's extraordinary, because there are plenty of willing sellers at the bottom price, and there are plenty of willing buyers when we get to $85 a barrel or $100 a barrel. It's amazing how the industry is pro-cyclical in terms of what it buys and sells, whereas you're trying to be counter-cyclical in terms of what you buy and sell.
Yeah, so and if you just tell you some of the examples, like we undertook a deep water development project. This is going to be a flagship project as far as the company is concerned. It is on the eastern coast. We committed an investment of $5 billion on a single project. I'll just give you one example. One of the deep water rigs which were operating, the same deep water rig, when the prices were high, it was commanding a day rate of $0.6 million per day, $600,000 per day. And the same rig we contracted at less than $120,000 a day. So at just 20% of the price.
Amazing.
And today the same rig has been deployed for developing this particular field.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so most of the services what we have done, and normally this had been our strategy, we go in for a relatively long-term contract.
Yeah.
So the services which we contracted a year back, today they're paying a rich dividend.
It's interesting. You talk about field services and rigs and products as well. The last time we saw a big rally in oil price as well, we also saw the cost curve going up aggressively as well. Are you seeing that this time round as well? Are costs managing, whether it be individuals, whether it be about rigs, whether it be various capabilities, are the costs going up as much as they did previously, or actually are people managing to keep a lid on it?
I personally believe it as a company, and maybe others also. We have learned a lesson. In fact, the last downturn had been a pretty
Everybody's blighted by the last downturn.
Yeah. So it was a pretty long, almost 4 years cycle. So that was the time people did realize probably we need to be cost conscious, and wherever there was a possibility of cutting down costs. And I personally feel it probably will take a lesson. We all will take a lesson from this, and the prices cost probably is going to be kept within it.
You're a generation of chairmen and CEOs, aren't you, in charge of companies now that is blighted by that last downtick as well. Whether you're yourself or Bob Dudley or the leader of various NOCs, it's very near memory, isn't it, that big downtick as well? It was quite scary from an existential point of view, wasn't it?
Yes, but otherwise also in our case, our cost of operation is relatively it's on the lower side. Prior to this, now of course there's a lot of reform has taken place. I'm not very sure whether you know about it. Our realization was not at the international market price. So there is quite a bit of cross-sector subsidy was there. So our net realization that time also used to be in less than $50 a day. $50 a barrel. So this downturn, so that's the reason probably we have been able to maintain our capex.
ONGC is the jewel in India's energy crown, but are its debt levels a threat? More on the CNBC conversation.
We were a debt-free company for that matter, and the projections are from this level, the prices are going to go high only.
18.
Has this been a controversial couple of years for you?
See, this is a good question, not only here. In fact, this is being talked about everywhere, but let me clarify you. Today, when I talk about we were a debt-free company for that matter. And when we acquired this HPCL, we borrowed and we had some surplus cash flows there. We had other options. We had some shares of other companies. So we had the option when divesting them, and then probably would not have taken any loan. But the loan which we got was at a very, very competitive price. So what we did, we had about 25,000 crores Indian rupees loan we had taken, and it was only in January we acquired this. And when I'm talking to you, our total loan position could be about just $10,000. That's really not a matter of concern, and maybe in another 3-4 months we should be again back to.
It's very interesting. So you feel the assets you've picked up and the debt you've acquired, A, you've done the debt at a very competitive price and at low interest rates, and B, the assets which you haven't disposed of, any of them, you feel that they are good assets for the longer term for your company?
Yes, these are in fact some national oil companies, and the projections are from this level the prices are going to go high only. So maybe at some other opportunity, when we have some kind of acquisition opportunities coming up, that's the time probably we'll think of divesting those.
But you are looking to divest some asset as well, the potential 149 smaller marginal fields to private and foreign companies. How's that going?
We did an analysis, and not only for the company, it is at a pan-India basis. And what we found, that includes the private sector, national oil companies, that is ONGC, Oil India and other private companies. There are about 67 fields. They contribute 95% of the total production. And 149 smaller fields that belong to NOCs and the private players also. They've just been contributing 5% of the...
Just 5% of total production.
So, there is it's not yet, nothing is decided. So there is a talk going on. Maybe probably if you concentrate on the bigger fields.
Yeah. And what is it, the 60 big fields, 90% plus of your production?
95%. 95%.
It sounds like there's a very big efficiency change that can happen to the company if you were just to focus on those.
Focus on that. Yeah. So that is the thinking going on. It's not that it's going to get privatized. So maybe somebody comes, smaller players, they come, they'll be probably able to pay more attention. They'll be able to more efficiently work on those.
What about the focus? And I hear it a lot when I'm at gas conferences, energy conferences, and a little bit at ONG conferences as well. That the companies are looking at gas more than oil now, and it's something you've alluded to in one of your earlier answers as well. But is gas becoming as important or more important to you as a company?
Yes, in fact, what has happened in the recent past, if you see, and this is a global phenomenon, there has been more of gas discovery than oil. right? And today if you look at gas, I mean, that's a cleaner fuel. I mean, there is a drive from the government side also. And the kind of discoveries we have, so we are, what you're saying is right, though we are not ignoring the oil discoveries, but there is a greater focus on developing all those gas discoveries which were not done today, in the past also. So those are, I mean, those are under development.
But there are challenges, and gas cannot be used to fuel all of India's growth story as well. It can't fuel the transportation story fully at the moment as well. It can't necessarily fuel the entire industrial story as well. So
That's right.
gas has a limited role. Do you see gas as a transmission fuel, a transition fuel to the end product, or is it the end product fuel as well? Because some people are saying it's one that we can use in the meantime before we get renewables at scale.
No, I don't think gas is going to totally replace oil for that matter. I'll give you an example like petrochemical. Petrochemical, I mean, you just cannot, everything cannot be done with gas. But in the transport sector, in fact, in a small way, we are trying to, CNG, you know that many of our, the commercial vehicles, these are running on CNG. Now for LNG also, in fact, there is a move going on, especially for trucks, for transportation of material and things like that. So there is a roadmap being drawn how best we can use LNG also for...
Is LNG a very large part of your thinking, of the country's thinking going forward?
Today, if you see the total the gas we consume, 50% is being produced domestically, and the 50% what we are getting is through, there is no piped gas. So the 50% of gas requirement is being met through LNG.
Still ahead on the CNBC Conversation, India's import dilemma in the age of volatility.
I personally feel if it remains in the range bound like $60 to $80, that's good for everyone, the producer and the consumers, especially for a country like India. OPEC has got to play a very critical role in keeping that volatility for that matter factor. I personally feel if it remains in the range bound like $60 to $80, that's good for everyone, the producer and the consumers, especially for a country like India. And there was a debate yesterday, just in this conference only it was going on, and that's what people said, that OPEC has got to play a very critical role in keeping that volatility for that matter factor. So by adjusting the supply and demand, geopolitically is something probably you just can be predicted, or you can't do much about it. But the supply and demand scenario at least can be adjusted to.
But the noise when we had higher oil prices came from Mr. Trump. But I know for a fact, because I spoke to your energy minister as well, that the Indians were also making the same protestations to OPEC and to others about the price of a barrel as well. Perhaps not as loud as Mr. Trump as well, but India was feeling the pain as well. Do you think the oil producers listened? Do you think they put enough supply into the market?
No, see, in fact, we have been very vocal on this. Not only our energy minister, our prime minister also has been speaking about it, Mr. Modi. We today we are heavily dependent on import of oil. We import more than 80% of our oil. So yes, the oil prices has got a direct impact on our economy. So this is something we would like to be under.
But I mean, OPEC said they satiate every buyer, that nobody's going short as well. But it's the price at which they satiate the buyer. Do you feel that India's economy and this amazing growth story we've seen over the last few years is being undermined by an old problem, and that is imported products, imported energy, imported oil?
Yeah, that's a concern, and that's one reason we have this overseas arm. Now all the companies, we are going outside the country. Within India, the government has taken, especially for the E&P sector, the government has taken a number of initiatives, reform measures. At the ONGC, as a national oil company also, we have acquired some 48,000 line kilometers of 2D data. We have done the resource reassessment, and today when I speak, out of the 42 billion tons of resource we have just been able to discover 20 billion tons. So there is an opportunity. So there is a greater thrust to have more exploration within the country. For that, government has taken bigger initiatives, like they have come out with a new licensing policy that is called HELP, Hydrocarbon Exploration Licensing Policy. Now anybody can carve out that area of their choice depending on whatever they understand from the data available. There is a total pricing and marketing freedom for whatever you discover. Anything for that matter, the conventional, unconventional, you have the license to explore any form of hydrocarbon. So likewise, the government has taken a number of initiatives, and I'm hopeful. And yesterday only we had that one road show for that open acreage licensing policy and that for discovered small field around.
But in terms of a less volatile energy future for India, which affects the entire economy, where's the roadmap? What's the roadmap for India that can take out that volatility caused by imported price? Or is there just no solution because India is growing so quickly with such a large economy and such a large population that it is impractical to think of a less heavy import bill?
Yes, I also feel it probably will continue to be dependent on import as far as hydrocarbon is concerned. But then there is a greater focus on renewable.
Yes.
In fact, as a country, we have a plan by 2022, 175,000 megawatt of renewables. Many projects are underway. So that's one option we got to look at it. We are talking about biofuel. We have a lot of agri-waste. So work is going on that. So we want to diversify our energy basket for that matter. Renewables, bio-waste, and then yesterday also they are talking about, now probably OPEC is a association of oil producing country. They are thinking in fact they can include some of the oil consuming big nations like China and India. And there is a good, at least dialogue is taking place from the producers and the consuming nations also. That also must have impacted in some way. You saw that supply side. I mean, they cut it down now. They're saying that they have some capacity. So as and when the oil prices goes up, they'll be able to pump in more barrel into the market. So I mean, strategic level also. I mean, we have to work on this. And
because we also have, running in tandem with everything we've discussed, normal economic cycles, we have the post-COP21 world. And we know how contentious it was for emerging nations, especially India, made very big protestations about the need to industrialize without constraints, as indeed Western nations were allowed to do 100, 200 years ago as well. Has the COP21 world, this world we live in since 2015, has it made things more difficult for the growth of the Indian energy sector, or actually has it proved a boost for certain parts of it?
no, we are very conscious of the fact. In fact, we had not been as a nation, not been a great pollutant for that matter. Let me put it this way. We are trying our best. We are moving into a renewable in a big way. Our target is from today we have 7% of gas in our energy basket. From there we want to go to 15% by 2030. The government is committed and so is the people. In fact, as a company also, we have 10 CDM projects, Clean Development Mechanism projects. The power plant which I talked about, through that power plant alone, we are getting more than 1 million CRs.
Wow.
So we are conscious of the facts on it. Thank you.